Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Agahi. Today we're going to talk about a fantastic topic, narcissism and covert narcissistic abuse. The society that we live in this day and in this day and age, it has become a prevalent issue, and one commonly displays narcissism as something positive in the media, and the culture tends to celebrate this as something which is worth applauding. Although it's something highly condemned in our religion, and it originates from arrogance, pride, self-love, self-worship, something that leads to a number of diseases of the soul and the mind. Today, inshallah, to discuss this topic further, I've invited a guest who doesn't need any introduction. Mashallah, she is the founder and director of the Shia Studies Online. Um, Dr. Rebecca Masterson, welcome to the show.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for the invitation. Eid Mubarak.
Pleasure is mine. Eid Mubarak to you too, and Eid Mubarak to all those who are watching. So, Rebecca, I'm sure you're as excited as I am to discuss this and explore this topic more, because narcissism is becoming so common. And I think most of us have come across someone in our life, in our circle, in our family, maybe, in our relationships, who shows these traits, these personality traits of narcissism. And I think most of us don't really understand how toxic this can be. And to live with someone who is a narcissist can be so painful psychologically. So let's start and let's discuss what covert narcissism is.
Okay, so yes, there are different types of narcissism, and I think that an understanding of narcissism has developed over the last 10 years. And for anyone who may have been in a marriage or a relationship or had a parent who has generally made them feel worthless and miserable and confused, and to doubt themselves, when you look up on YouTube, there's now thousands of videos about this, and when people discover these videos, they realize that the person who has made them feel miserable and confused and worthless has actually just been psychologically abusing them. There are different kinds of narcissism. You have extrovert narcissists and introvert narcissists. So as an example of a narcissist, very obvious narcissist would be Donald Trump. So it's obvious, he's completely unapologetic about promoting himself. He's very manipulative, and he kind of is perfectly happy to fool the crowd, and to do what it takes to get what he wants. He manipulates people, he uses people. He's not apologetic about that. And then you have the introvert or the covert narcissist who was damaged in childhood. A lot of it comes from childhood damage, where their own sense of has been destroyed, and so they present a mask to the public of being a lovely person. You wouldn't guess that that they're anything but sweet, but behind that mask is where they pick a target. It can be a spouse, or it can be a sister or friend, coworker, and they pick a target and they will systematically break that person down, because they need to do that to feel better about themselves. And this is, in a way, a much more dangerous type of narcissism, because it's hidden. And very often someone who's been a victim of this type of narcissism may go to friends and family or community and say, this person doing X, Y, Z to me, and no one will believe them, because everyone says they can't do that, but they're such a nice person.
Because they appear to be quite charismatic and charming, and sometimes they're quite people friendly, and they appear to be really like good listeners and friendly.
They have mastered. So the covert narcissist has mastered to a T how to be the life of of the gathering. Everybody loves them. They're so sweet. So, but what they do is that they mirror people. They've learned
Yeah.
what's called mirroring. So they give the impression of, oh, really? You do that? Oh, I do that as well. Oh, we're so
Yeah.
alike. And they form
Yeah.
bonds like that. But it's all with a long-term plan, which is to take advantage of their target. So they reel a target in through kind of flattery and empathy, and then they will figure out what they can get out of their target. It can be financial, or social position. Yeah, everybody is an object to them to be used.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, they can be really, really lovely. But once they pick their target, then that target will realize that they are being on the end of systematically destroyed and utilized. Yeah.
And I think most people don't realize this when they are in a narcissistic abusive relationship. They don't understand the typical patterns that a narcissist shows. And there are so many different types of narcissism. And the one that we are discussing today is not really pathological, unless it's someone who has been diagnosed with a narcissistic
Hmm.
personality disorder, which, according to the fifth edition of the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, is a mental disorder and really hard to treat. But a classic narcissist, like you said, Rebecca, that they appear to be really nice and sweet and friendly, and the mirror, because they want to make you believe that, oh, we are similar. Oh, you like reading? Oh,
Yes.
I love reading too. So the other person thinks,
Yeah.
oh, we are so similar, we're on the same page. And that's how they, like you said, manipulate. It's the baiting process where they pick their prey, and then they know how to manipulate that person, and they tend to learn this behavior from really, like, from an early age. From, I think, from the
Yes.
childhood they start to learn manipulation techniques. I don't know how they do that, but yes, it's
Yeah.
very
Well, I think
toxic
maybe
for
from
the.
the parent,
Yeah,
from their parents, it gets passed down the generation. So very disturbing to see, one parent training their child that this is how you behave in the world. You don't. They train their child to have the view that don't be straightforward with people. The way to be in the world is to lie and is to deceive and is to denigrate your target and to, take advantage and plot and plan and lie, and that's how you should be in the world. And then children are raised to be totally dysfunctional. Yeah.
of course. It messes up their childhood as well. And sometimes they may use the sob story to get someone to like them, saying, oh, we had a really bad childhood and everything was messed up and we were abused by our parents or what have you, just to get the other person to feel sympathy for them and say, oh, this person has been through so much and this is why they
Yeah.
are so sensitive. Although it's just what you call their a sense of self-worth and sense of entitlement is overinflated. It's like it's
Yeah.
always about me. There's no empathy, is there?
Yes, they absolutely, in circumstances, must come first. They must come first. But another textbook characteristic is that yes, they often have a sob story. They're very good at playing the victim, and they will play this role literally throughout life. I mean, they literally have. It's like being I mean, when someone's a trained actor, they play a
Yeah,
part on stage, but these people play that part. They could play that part for 20, 30 years. So people who've been
yeah,
married to these type of people, they'll realize after 20 years, oh my God, the person I was married to doesn't exist. It was
yes,
just an act. It was a fake persona. But how they reel someone in. So they're very good at sussing out empaths. So, people who are naturally empathetic, caring, want to help fix them, and so on. They will suss that person out, and they'll go, aha, this is a caring person. So I'll just play my sob story part. I'll just kind of play my victim role. And again, it's all about reeling them in. So you have what's called supply. So narcissists need what's called supply. They need people to prop them up. The disturbing thing is that can be their children that prop them up. So the children are totally misused. I mean, they're raised with a totally inappropriate role in the parent's life. You often get what's called parentification, where the children parent trying to make the parent feel and yes, there is this sense of entitlement, which is that no matter how much the narcissist might hurt someone or damage someone or con them, or whatever they do, they will never feel apologetic for it. For them, it's all what they need to do to take care of themselves. And yes, they have no empathy. So when you think that children say by a narcissistic parent, they're raised to feel like, oh, if I just do this, then mum or dad will be happy with me, or if I just do that, then mum or dad, and this can go on into the 50s. So you get adults in their 50s who are still trying to win mum or dad's love, but mum or dad will never be happy, because mum and dad have learned that the way to hook the child in and get the child to kind of prop up the parent is by being constantly displeased with them.
Yeah.
And they can be displeased with them in very random ways. So, moving the goalposts is another thing. Oh, if only you did X, Y, Z, then you would be a child, or you would be a good spouse, or, sister, you'd be a good friend. If only you could do that. And then the person will try to do that, will try to win their spouse's love. And it's like a never ending game of moving goalposts, of trying to get things to be normal. But sadly, according to Bert, you're never going to have a normal relationship with this person. It's not going to happen. And they say that with covert narcissists, unfortunately, they actually get worse with age. They don't get better. So if any of you go into a marriage or have had narcissistic parents, and you're desperately hoping that, okay, maybe over time they might mellow, or if I just do this or just do that, they'll get better, or I send them to therapy, or talk to them. They actually get worse with age. They get more abusive, more controlling, more bad-tempered, more be around. But of course, they'll be absolutely in public, and no one would ever know that these people can be, as an example, verbally abusive. Covert narcissists control their target through verbal abuse, physical abuse as well. But no one would ever know that. They would think that, oh, but they do such a lot of work for charity. Oh, but they recite Quran so nice. Yeah. A lot of these people do charity work because it makes them look good. So they will do something in public that will make them look like, often they are the pillars of the community. Oh no, but they can't be, because they're known for doing so much good. They want their children to do well, to make them look good. So the child will be under a lot of kind of subliminal psychological pressure to excel, not for the sake of the child to do well in life, but to make the parent look good. So then the parent will say, oh yes, my child are kind of a first in their degree, but it's all part of building up the social profile. So the child is just a tool to build up this person's social profile, or they'll get a trophy partner, a trophy wife, a trophy husband, and so this person will realize that, wait a minute, there's something missing in this marriage, because they approached me. They do what's called love bombing. So they approach me with so admiration. They do love bombing, and then after that, they start to work on controlling the spouse. So at first it'll be, oh, you're so wonderful, you're so great, and the spouse will genuinely feel that they are in love. I've married my soulmate, the person of my dreams. This is so good. I can't believe this. I'm so loved. And a few months down the line, the mask starts to drop, and be these little kind of put downs, kind of backhanded
sometimes few days, not even few months.
Sorry?
Sometimes not even few months, few days.
Yeah. Yes. I saw a video of a sister who, Somali sister around online at the moment, who within a week of her marrying, her husband said to her, I don't love you. And she was thinking, what do I do now? I just married this person
Yeah.
a week
Yeah.
ago, and now they're telling me and so yeah, so they and of course that's all part of destroying the spouse. It's all part of kind of, well, now that I've got you, I can start to systematically because another characteristic they have is pathological jealousy, pathological envy. So they are very often jealous of their spouses. It could be either way around. And so, of course, empaths are usually quite popular because they are caring to the people, caring in public. So they have a lot of good qualities. They're very self-sacrificing and so on. And so the narcissistic spouse, ironically, will not like this because they all start to see it as competition. So, so number one, they will try to compete with the spouse. So if that spouse naturally does a lot of charity work, they will try to outdo that spouse by doing more charity work. The smear campaign. So behind their back, they will secretly behind their spouse's back, put them down to the spouse's friend. So they will say, people say, oh, you know, your husband or your wife, oh, they're such lovely people. They do such good work. You know, you're so fortunate. They say, yes, I am, but you know, they do have some psychological problems. They go, really? Yes, and they have temper problems, and they'll completely lie about their spouse, and they'll do this over a period of years. So they gradually isolate their spouse by systematically throughout the community start break down, down. And the spouse will start to notice behaving funny to why is that? They'll start to notice attitude, but they won't understand why. Well, it's because your very own partner or your very own co-worker or best friend, sometimes it can be a best friend, your very own best friend who is admiring you to your face is going around the community, yeah, but you know, lying about and saying, yeah, they did this, they did that. And people, no, really? Yes, but they're saying. So this is it's I mean, people online, I mean, even non-religious people have called them devils, and it's very hard not to kind of say it's evil. It really is evil. So this innocent person who just unfortunately became friends or ended up working with somebody like this, it can happen in the workplace. So your co-worker will because of pathological envy, will systematically try to prevent somebody from being promoted or try to get them sacked. They will even set things up. They're very good at kind of setting things up to try to sabotage someone as well.
A lot of
so they
gaslighting.
might even
A lot of
sabotage
gaslighting.
gaslighting. Yes, this is in fact I've oh gosh, if you want to see a really disturbing example of gaslighting, there's someone on Jim Soroka, he's called, and his partner, I mean, obviously they're not Muslim, but I'm sure people will recognize, this type of behavior. So his partner, unfortunately, she grew up in a Christian family, and it seems that there were elements of psychological abuse. She's ended up with this man called Jim Soroka, who has basically spent 5 years destroying her. And so he kind of lives their relationship online. He live streams their relationship, their marriage, or whatever it is. And he will say, tell everybody you don't want to do X, Y, Z. And she'll go, well, it's because, and she gives an explanation. He'll say, you know you're lying. You know you're lying. And she's not lying. But one thing that these people do, who are pathological liars themselves, they will tell their victim, you know you're lying. You know that's not the case. You did it because of this. You did it because of that. And they start, this is the really, deeply disturbing thing. They will mess up someone's sense of reality. They put in your own mind that say something and then they'll say, no, I never said that. So it's like, oh, let's go out tonight. So, the spouse will, let's say, start to kind of dress up, and they're going out or something, going out to an event or whatever, and then get to the door. It's like, well, why are you wearing that? Well, because you said, we're going out.
Yeah.
I never said that. You know why you put that on? It's because you want to show off. It's because you want to get attention. That's why you put it on. I never said we're going out, but you
Yeah.
did. No, I didn't. And so
Mm.
so the spouse will start to completely doubt what they've heard, seen, and then the next step is they start to depend upon the narcissist for their sense of reality. Well, if I can't trust my own, what I've seen and what I've heard, then I need my destructive narcissistic spouse to tell me what's right and what's wrong, because I get it wrong. And then, of course, the narcissist can have a field day, just completely destroying reality. The very sad thing, of course, is when children get gaslighted. So gaslighting, for people who might not be aware, is when someone lies basically to your face about
Yes.
you. They will tell you, no, but you did this, don't you remember? No, you did. And you do this
Yeah.
and you do that. And you're going, do I? And they can, another thing is that they can tell their victim that, well, there's something wrong with you that needs to be fixed. And if look, you're not worthy of my love and approval. And parents can do it, friends, spouses. You're not worthy of my love and approval until you fix this thing about yourself. And then they'll start to work on that, and that can go on for it. Now, come on, you have a problem with blah blah blah, but it's all imagined and invented. Another thing they
I
do is
think
to provoke that. Yeah, I could go on.
relationship with I know there's so much to discuss, and the time is like so limited,
Yeah.
such a broad topic. I was just saying, Rebecca, that relationship with such a person, with a narcissist, is such a painfully one-sided one, because they're only interested in what they want, and they have a
Yes.
very twisted sense of perception about themselves and the world, that it's all about me, the world revolves around me. And like you
Yeah.
said, controlling behavior, it's something which predominates, They want to
Yes.
control everyone, their spouse, or, people around them. Everything should be their way or the highway. And
Yes.
I think they're quite delusional when it comes to these things, because they don't understand when they have done something wrong, that it was their fault. They tend to project, no, it was your fault. You provoked me. You made me angry. I never
Yes.
wanted to hit you.
Yeah.
And to the rest of the world, the person who is in such a relationship, they can't really prove themselves, because they're really good. Like you said, they're actors. They're really good when they go outside in the world. They pretend to be all like, peaceful, calm, nice human
Yes.
beings who can never hurt anyone. So people tend to like spend, like you said, sometimes 10, 20, 30 years in a narcissistic abusive relationship without even knowing that the person I'm married to is a classic narcissist, and he's never going to change.
Yes.
And we keep telling us, oh, you know what, he's going to change one day, or she's going to change one day, and it
Yeah.
never happens.
And also the narcissist may even kind of, like you say, I mean, a classic thing is that the narcissist, like we say when talking about physical violence, will be physically violent and to children, spouses, and they'll be physically violent like it's just no big deal as well. But if the victim again kind of protests, then it'll be, well, you, like I said, you made me do that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be physically violent with you. If you could control yourself. And a lot of things, they like to make the victim give the impression that the victim is the one who's out of control. The victim is
Yeah.
the one who's crazy and can't. So that, well, if you could only just control your temper, if you could only just, you've got to rein yourself in. I mean, again, I would recommend people, I mean, the term gaslighting came from, this 1940s movie called Gaslight. This man, he marries this lady who lives in this she's got her own property. Often as well, they don't. Another characteristic of them is that they're parasites. So they use
Oh,
people
yeah.
particularly for money. They will marry for money, but of course they hide that motive as well. So in this film, the man marries this woman because he's found out that there's some rubies in her attic or something, and he wants to go and get access to the house to kind of search around in the attic for these rubies. Um, but what he does is that he has to work on her mind that she's crazy, and that another thing they do is that they're very good at pushing buttons. They're very good at driving their spouse to the edge mentally. So of course us will react, and then they'll say, see, now just get a hold of yourself. You've got this problem, you overreact, do it again, when the one that has provoked that reaction.
Is that
So
person.
and of course, like what happened is that they will do it subtly in public. Subtly, they'll
Yes.
give a subtle message for their spouse to start reacting in public, and they'll go, oh, you're such an embarrassment. Control your front of everybody. So public humiliation is something else that they do. And of course, this person is absolutely miserable and thinking, I did it again. I don't know why I did it. I did. And worse than that, I reacted in front of everybody. And now I've brought shame to my spouse. I've brought shame to my household. And I really need to go home and work on myself, when it's all been engineered. And they get a pleasure out of engineering it. So when they see or the friends or the co-worker miserable, then they'll have a little smirk on their face, out of sight of the spouse, but a little smirk that they've managed to destroy this person a little bit. They've managed to kind of chip away at them, and that gives this kind of very sick pleasure at destroying this person, getting them to react.
They're very dangerous. They're very harmful.
Very, very
They,
dangerous. Yeah.
they may appear to be like charming and rest of it, but when you look at the red flags, Rebecca, and you mentioned some of them, what we need to look out for in a narcissist, like you mentioned, love bombing. The initially when they meet you, they'll be like bombarding you with praises and gifts and flattery, and suddenly, oh, you're my soulmate, like we've just met,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
it'll be followed by lies and deceit and then manipulation and suddenly control. Don't meet that person. Who are you speaking with? Who are you texting? Give me your password.
Yeah. Yes, they must take control. In fact, there's an example of a lady who did contact me where her husband took control of her credit cards, had total control. So she was the one earning.
Yeah.
She's the one earning in the marriage. He's not earning. She's earning a salary, but he took control of her cards to her bank, and would give her £40 a month to spend. And I'm sorry, I don't want to offend her if she's listening to this. I don't want to offend her, but this is an example. And when she
Yeah.
tried to kind of lay down her boundaries, this is another thing. They do not recognize boundaries. You're not allowed to have boundaries. So, all of us have natural boundaries and what's your personal space. They do not recognize that. So when she tried to, then he would lose his temper. And so how they get their way is by, number one, going on and on and on about something that they want until you kind of crumble, or yes, losing the temper. So he eventually worked on her and managed to get control of her own money that she's earning, and then he would give her barely enough to spend on some for the month or something. It can happen the other way around. Obviously, either men or women can do this. So it's not gender specific. It's not even age specific as well. You can get parents who are actually quite nice people, but for some reason their children one of their children has become like this. So it can be learned behavior. Sometimes the parents, they might not mean to somehow, some kind of issues may have happened, where they've done their best to raise their children, but one of the children has ended up like that. Of course, the parents are very ill-equipped to deal with that kind of thing. They don't understand it. They're very to deal with it. They will do their best to try to forgive it, of course, so it can carry on that way as well. But it
I
is
was
very
thinking, yeah, I mean, there are so many red flags to look out for because there are so many types of narcissism, and not every type of narcissism can be pathological either. But for the person who is living with such a person, for them, it's so harmful in the long run. And
Yes.
sometimes people have a trauma bond where they confuse
Yeah.
love and abuse. And I think people need to understand that where there is love, there is mercy, compassion. You listen to each other.
Yes.
It's not just one man show where one person is telling you what to do, how to do it, and the other person's views and opinions are
Yeah.
not considered. And I think there's another element where they expect you to make all the sacrifices, but when it comes to themselves, they don't want to
Yeah.
compromise. They don't want to adjust. They don't want to,
No.
yeah.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, they'll be rigid in, and also kind of establish a set of quite arbitrary rules as well on how things should be done. So one person ends up playing along to these kind of quite illogical rules sometimes. But like you say, red flags. We must trust our instincts. So often when you read about or you hear people got into a narcissistic situation, they will say something seemed quite right, something seemed a bit off, but what it is that you kind of brush that aside because the person is so good at trying to convince you. It's like a salesman. I mean, we have so many cases of poor, like elderly people being targeted by salesmen knocking on the door to get access to their homes or to get them to give money. And what they do is they will talk very convincingly. They're very, very convincing in the way that they talk. So these little kind of signals you get that, wait a minute, that seems a bit like they got a bit of a fake smile there. Or I remember there was a lady who I now look back and I realized that she was a narcissist, and she was abusive towards her daughter. And I became quite close to this family. I got totally sucked into the family, and it was a never-ending roller coaster of me sort of trying to fix their problems and so on. But actually, it was all just about generating drama. And but there was something about this lady. Her laugh used to give me the creeps. They can have fake laughs, so they don't laugh naturally. Kind of a fake. They don't actually engaging with you. When someone's laughing with you, they are connecting to you. These people don't connect. So when they laugh, they're watching you at the same time. So you get this slightly uncomfortable feeling when they're laughing or smiling. And, if you have these kind of uncomfortable feelings, you think, no, Rob, no, that can't be right. They're genuinely kind of talking to me in a very convincing way. I'm going to brush that uncomfortable feeling aside. You shouldn't do that. If you're getting an uncomfortable feeling, even if it's a fleeting feeling, that's your instinct. That is, and as you say, like with love bombing, sometimes it can seem like too much. Like this person is kind of,
over the top.
This is kind of like too much.
Yeah.
What do you say?
They bombard you with texts and calls and letters and flowers and constantly they want to know where you are, what are you doing, how was the day?
Yes.
Like, calm down.
Yeah. So this is all about moving in to kind of control the person, but I think about yes, I mean they again I can recommend looking at the Jim Soroka files, as it's called. Jim Soroka, not only did he have this poor girl, it's so disturbing to watch it, but yesterday I saw that he also found a vulnerable man. What was he called? I can't remember now. Jim Soroka managed to get $60,000 out of this man. He put this man $60,000 in debt. And this person who's breakdown of what Jim Soroka has done has given a photo of this man who was a little bit kind of he might have he was a bit kind of vulnerable in some way,
Yeah.
innocent and vulnerable. So there's the before picture when he's just met Jim Soroka. Looks like a normal, smiling, healthy person. Few months after Jim Soroka, he looks like he's in this trance. He's lost weight, but he's lost a couple of stones, in weight, and he's got the same look as Jim Soroka, which is totally up psychologically, totally pummeled psychologically. It's very, very. It's literally like they're like vampires, and they will just they will take everything, and they will still make the victim feel like they're to blame for something.
They're
Oh, you
also
do this
known
to
as
me, you do that to me, poor
emotional
me.
clingers. They kind of feed on your
Yes,
emotions. They draw all your like mental energy, and people I think don't
yeah,
realize that they are in a
yeah,
very toxic relationship.
yes, yes. I mean, like we said, they're emotional. They need to have, like we said, supply. Need to have somebody emotionally engaged with them because that boosts their ego. But another thing is that they will provoke somebody to be angry just to get that reaction. So of course, I mean, one way of there's lots of help about how to deal with these people. They're not easy to deal with. If you're
No,
in a marriage with
no.
this type of person, you're advised and you realize to get out because this is a dangerous
Because it
situation for
doesn't
me.
work out. Like you said,
No,
that with age it gets worse. So people telling themselves
yeah,
that, you know what, just give another couple of years, this person's going to get better. They never
hmm
get better. It gets worse. It gets from bad to worse.
no,
So I think when you go to a professional, like a mental health professional, they will say to you that if you really want to stay in this relationship, really, 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 then you have to like make a lot of to adapt to live with that person. But I think most of them
mm,
say to kind of get out of this relationship because psychological abuse is like the worst. There are no obvious scars and wounds, but it really kind of it changes you for life. The trauma,
yeah.
it changes you as a
It's
person.
like torture. I mean, it's
It
actual
is.
psychological torture. So if you think about victims who have, been captured in war, as an example, and imprisoned and tortured, and then they're kind of released and they go home. Well, they might look normal on the outside, but they suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. There can be many, many, the way that, difficulty concentrating, depression, feeling of hopes. I know you're not supposed to feel, and of course, if you're a Muslim, you're not supposed to feel like that. So that's the extra thing of why do I feel this? I shouldn't be feeling like this. Distrust of people. You can't trust your own judgment. You can't trust other people. So, difficulty holding a job down, difficulty studying, definitely difficulty having another relationship again, and reliving the trauma, all the time. So they basically somebody for life. And of course, of course, there's treatment available, but like they say about torture victims, they never forget. You can never forget because you violated to your core. So you've been taught by the abuser that you have no safe place to run to. You've got no safe place because they can
Yes.
go deep into the heart of who you are and destroy the heart of who you are. So,
And
so this is why. Mhm.
sometimes I've come across sisters who said that they were, say, for example, married to a narcissist, and that person took their pictures and made their videos when they were not even aware that this was happening. And they later used it against them that if you report me to the police, that I've done this to you, then I'm going to show this to everyone. And then the poor victim, she's like trapped in this vicious circle of abuse. She doesn't know who to look out for and who to approach. And we discuss different types. And you also mentioned some people who appear to be like really charitable and kind and helpful.
Yeah.
There is a type of spiritual narcissism where you people, they're like holier than thou. They may be wearing a turban on their head, but
Hmm.
they use their like religious knowledge to misuse their position. And then I think if we talk about what narcissism originates from, I think it's arrogance,
Hmm.
highly, for something which is not looked at with a like good, perspective in Islam,
Yeah.
pride, self-love, self-obsession. And I think people who are
I
watching
mean,
who have, yeah, they haven't heard what narcissism is. It's like a
yeah.
Greek word, narcissism, and a person who looked at his image, his reflection, and fell in love with it. That's where it originates from.
Hmm.
But people tend to confuse it
Narcissus.
with
Yeah. It's a,
low self-esteem. It has nothing to do with self-esteem, because people with low or high self-esteem can be really kind and humble
yeah.
people, but a narcissist is never humble. So
No,
someone
like you
with a,
say, they have this complete sense of entitlement,
yes.
and which can sometimes you can be so surprised by how they come across that you kind of do a double take and think you almost make an allowance for it because you can't believe that they just said something that was so self-entitled. But yes, I mean the spiritual now is highly, highly dangerous, and this can happen in all religions. I mean, we're talking about spiritual narcissism in terms of there have been, shiur, spiritual guides, very, very dangerous. These people, spiritual guides who end up actually, and they can get a lot of followers. So, of course,
Oh,
if there's a
yes.
dissenter among these followers, so say you've got a sheikh who is passing himself off as some kind of mystic, and then he manages to get a whole kind of an army of followers who think he's absolutely wonderful. If there's one person on the receiving end of his abuse and they want to speak out, it's very difficult. The followers can
Hmm.
turn on that person, and threaten that person. Yes, I mean another thing is they threaten to make false allegations. If you don't do this, I'm going to tell the whole world blah blah
Oh,
blah about
yes.
you, and no one's going to believe you if you try to speak out. And they'll be quite happy to make those threats to that person. But again, it's all about this obsession with control. They need to have this control over the entire universe. If they could, they would have control over the entire universe. So, um, so they gather followers, and people who would, because you need that sense of power.
Yes.
Um, but and of course, they are known to be of above average intelligence as well. A lot of the time, I mean, you get different the people who engage in spiritual abuse. You get other kind of more kind of low level abusers who are not so. They lie quite badly, although they do manage to kind of convince people, even though they tell quite clumsy lies. But they often get away with it because people just don't notice that actually this person just lied and contradicted. But the spiritual abusers are much more subtle. So
Hmm.
they will know all the terminology for like the spiritual path and so on and so forth. They will know how to manipulate people psychologically, spiritually, in much more subtle and controlling ways. But again, I would say a red flag is if they humiliate you. I mean, even Islamically, it is not permissible to humiliate someone, and it's not permissible for you to put up with humiliation on someone to defend their honor. So if you find that this person is sheikh or spiritual guide, mentor, is humiliating you or belittling you in some way.
Yes.
They love to belittle, but that is a red flag. Get out of there, because they are
Mm.
fraudsters. So,
Yes.
and of course, we have plenty of those. If you want to follow a teacher, and of course, people seeking knowledge, they are the victims of this. Actually, young people in their 20s and 30s, that's when you start to go on this path of, I want to become an arif. I want to attain, the fana fillah. I want to attain the highest levels of ma'rifah and so, and a great person who's going to guide me on this path. So you're completely open and vulnerable to abuse, because you get this charlatan coming along who's posing as this sheikh and who's going to guide you, when actually all they're doing is reeling you in to get money, or
Yeah.
to get admiration, or to just build up their kind of armor of admirers, so that they can then covertly again kind of live or feed off different people. So this is very, very
They
dangerous. If anyone
they love attention. They love being surrounded by people who love them, praise them, glorify
yeah,
them. I think that's a way of covering up for the insecurities, because you see this pattern in people who are classic like narcissists. Um, they they're always bragging about themselves, and like you said, belittling other people, sometimes even publicly humiliating them, or saying things that are pretty nasty and hurtful, and there's no remorse, no
yes,
guilt for doing
no,
that.
no,
And you give fantastic example of that orange buffoon, that media glorifies that man. He's a famous
yeah.
politician, right? Everybody
He's
knows he's
really
a
pulled
narcissist,
off a
but I can't understand how can
he's
anyone.
pulled off a hoax. I mean, he's pulled off like a global hoax. If you want an example of how a nation can be hoaxed, then there you have an example in Trump, or I would say in the whole series of presidents that we've had. Not we, but the Americans have had, probably going back the last 50 years. The world has been hoaxed. Iraq was a hoax. The whole nation was hoaxed and lied to. So it can happen on a grand scale. But yeah, I mean, they need to project themselves as the best.
Yeah.
They've got to be the best. So and they must destroy any person who looks like competition. So this is the thing: if someone's coming along who's innocently talented, just talented, or people love them, or they're doing good work and living, that person will see as an enemy who must be destroyed. They absolutely cannot tolerate competition. And another thing is that, of course, they actually have contempt for their admirers. So they won't, that admiration is not reciprocal. If you admire this great personality, they just see you as a fool who has fallen for their hoax. What an idiot. They've fallen for my act. Ha ha. So actually, all of these people don't realize that they're just being viewed with contempt and laughed at. Who gets this great pleasure from that, like a personal joke they've got with themselves. Oh, I'm playing this hoax on people. Ha ha.
And they also expect you to read their mind. So if they like stop communicating with you for several days, it's your fault for not knowing about the plans they never told you about. So there always be like a self-victimizing excuse to go
Hmm.
along with this kind of behavior.
Yeah, so another thing is a very common practice that they do is silent treatment.
Oh yes.
And sadly, I have past whose parents many years ago, mother used to do that. So it would be like 2 months of not talking to your spouse, to your child, and this is a form of abuse,
Yeah.
and control, attempts to control. But yes, I mean, so of course, the person who's on the receiving end of this silent treatment is absolutely miserable and wondering, how can I get my parent or my spouse again? And the person who's giving this treatment, eventually when they sort of mercifully or in a very saintly way, decide to talk to the person, going to say, well, you made me do it again. You made me do. If you hadn't said da 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 da, then you wouldn't have hurt me, and then I wouldn't have given you the silent treatment. So you brought it about,
Rebecca,
and again,
we've got 2 minutes left, unfortunately, and we still have so much to discuss. I think we need to do a part 2.
Yeah.
So just before wrapping up the show, I just want to share one quote from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that feelings of self-love is the end goal of your spirituality. And I think narcissism, it originates from pride, arrogance, and all the things that are kind of considered as not good in Islam. You shouldn't have it in yourself. So I want you to just wrap up and give us a message as to how to avoid a narcissist and how to make sure we're not one of them.
Right. Yes. Well, how to make sure we're not one of them is because a narcissist doesn't really have self-awareness. They doubt themselves and they say, "Oh, I'm cis." It is said, the experts say, if you're asking yourself and worrying that you're a narcissist, then it's most likely you're not a narcissist, or at least you sometimes narcissists can develop a tiny bit of self-awareness, but generally they're not self-aware. But how to avoid a narcissist? Well, yes, I mean, there's a difference between admiration and self-glorification and knowledge of your worth and self. So Imam Ali alayhi salam is that it is enough knowledge what you are worth. Everybody has worth as a human being. Allah created you. So if someone's telling you you don't have worth, they're not Allah. Allah is the one who's brought you into existence. You have as a human being. But self-admiration. So yes, I would say how to avoid a narcissist is listen to your instincts. If something doesn't look right, note it down. For people who are in a relationship or a work situation, make notes of behaviors, and I would say check them online. Notice this person do this, I notice them do that. This doesn't add up. Check them online, and there's all sorts of tips to avoid them. Yeah. So
thank you.
Thank you
so much, Rebecca. That was absolutely fantastic. A brilliant discussion. Thank you so much. Inshallah, we'll invite you again, maybe for a part 2, because there's still so much to discuss.
Yes,
and
inshallah.
I think we all need to attach our ego to a greater goal, to a goal that is greater than our ego. Thank you everyone for watching, for joining us today. Inshallah, we'll see you with a new topic on mental health next Saturday, 12 p.m. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.